I've been asked a lot about what's the low back carve-out procedure. This came of news with the Heidi Montag story in early 2010, in which some of the reports said that she had a carving out of her lower back. Well, what they mean by that is this is an area of the whole body that is probably the best for liposuction. The low back is probably the best for a few reasons. First, people hold a lot more fat there than they realize. People come in and say, I want a smaller waist, liposuck my stomach. But even when they pinch their stomach, there's not as much on the stomach as they think. But if they pinch their low back, there's a much greater amount. So the first part of this story is there's a lot more fat in the low back than people usually recognize. The second issue is that that fat really affects your physique. It affects the way you tuck your shirt into your pants. It affects the way a skirt falls. It affects how many notches you can pull in on your belt. And it affects the contour, the transition from your low back into your buttocks. So it's an important area in addition to the fact that it holds a lot of fat. Then finally, the third thing is that this fat is a dense fat. It's not a loose, jiggly fat like here or on the inner thighs. It's a very structured fat. If you pinch your low back, it's hard to get a good pinch on it because that fat is so thick and fibrous. So when you remove the fat there, you really can sculpt a lot. I enjoy doing it there because it's not a matter of just moving volume. You do a little more here and a little more there. You really can see the contour. The French have a term called la chute d'Uran, C-H-U-T-E-D-E-R-A-I-N, which I think means like the chute, the drop of the kidneys. And I learned this actually when I was with a Swiss surgeon friend of mine about 15 years ago. We were in France. It was just around when they opened the Musée d'Orsay. And there was a sculpture I was ogling that had this beautiful transition from the low back into the buttock. And he said, oh, that's la chute de rein, the drop of the kidneys. And so this procedure, the low back carve out, is about creating a nice chute de rein and about having a nice transition from the low back to the buttock. So it's a tremendous and terrific thing to do. But when you hear the term low back carve out, you shouldn't think of it like it's some specific new distinct entity. It's just what happens when good liposuction is done of the lower back, waist, love handle area.